Welcome to You Are Your Name. In this season, we'll be interviewing people who have balanced their names through the Kabbalion philosophy. If you've been following our podcast, you'll know that the Kabbalion philosophy teaches that names create a huge impact on your thinking, on your health, and the experiences that you attract, and that balanced names will create a much more balanced life. So we have people from all over the world changing their names, and we thought it would be helpful for you to listen to some of the changes that happened in their life. Our guest today is Floyd Kornigy. He's had a balanced name for a number of years. Thank you, Floyd, for joining us and discussing your experiences with a balanced name.
My pleasure.
So how long have you used a balanced name?
Well, I had my name analysis done September 2019, and then approximately 3 months later, I went and actually full-fledged legalized it. So that would be December 12th, 2019.
So how did you find out about the Kabbalion philosophy and the mathematical principle?
Let me just say, if somebody had to come up to me and gave a list of all the reasons why someone may want to change their name, I probably wouldn't have changed my name. I would have thought, oh, that's fine, but probably not for me. But for me, what happened is I became an acquaintance with someone that has been following the Kabbalion philosophy for many years. And they explained to me the mathematics and how there's a quantitative and a qualitative side. I never knew that there was a qualitative side. I knew the quantitative side, of course, 2 and 2 is 4, and 4 and 4 is 8, and everything like that. But it seemed very strange to me. Well, how can numbers have a quality? And so it was described to me how Mr. Parker used the analogy of a plant on the 1 to 9. The first stage being the seed, second stage germination when it splits, when it actually sprouts, and then the third stage when the plant starts expression above the ground, and then the fourth stage where one might look at it and say, gee, is this plant even going to make it? Because there doesn't seem to be anything going on. And then you find out later that it's really developing a root network below the ground. And then the fifth stage where suddenly the plant takes off and it's growing in all different directions, and you go, oh, it is going to make it, no problem. And then the sixth stage where the plant buds, and the seventh stage where it turns to flower, and the eighth stage where of fruition, where the plant will go to fruit, and then the ninth stage where it rests and reflect and possibly look towards starting over again, back at the one stage again in the following year. So it gave me an understanding that there's more to the mathematics than just the qualitative side.
In other words, it gave you a theoretical basis to see that this mathematical principle expresses in nature, and why wouldn't it express through mind as well?
Yes, and then I was introduced to the key chart. At this point, I hadn't changed my name. It hadn't even been suggested to me that maybe I better go change my name. I already knew now that there was a qualitative side to the numbers, but how does that relate to letters? And I had no idea, of course. And so I was introduced to the key chart, which now I say, oh, where every letter is assigned a number. Every letter in our alphabet is assigned a certain number. And of course, the numbers have their qualitative value. And so now I could see that. So then I was given a name analysis.
Sure. So you were explained the principle through the 5 basic truths, understanding the mathematical principle, understanding how language is related to mathematics, and then how name is related to language, and then how mind is related to name, and then consciousness is really the outcome. So that gave you a theoretical basis for when they gave you a name analysis, you said, this makes sense, and maybe a balanced name would balance your life.
Totally. Like the thing is, when I was given a name analysis and I looked at my old name and all the characteristics surrounding it, it was me. It was like somebody had been reading my mail. Really, like I could not believe how true it was. And I thought, there must be something to this. So it came to my own mind that it wasn't a question of, should I change my name? It was a question of, where do I sign on the dotted line to change my name? Like I did not want some of the things, like they rang true.
Right.
Some of the things, the characteristics that my life was that, and I thought, gee, if I could change that, it would be wonderful.
So it was the accuracy of the name report or the name analysis that gave you the confidence to go ahead. And so it wasn't really a difficult process.
Not at all. No, something else I'd like to share before I was even familiar with the Kabbalion philosophy at all. I pretty well knew somewhere I had picked up the information that anything in the universe is measurable by mathematics. You can measure anything there, and it didn't matter whether it was, you can measure music or distance or sound or you name it. If we know of it and it exists in this universe, it can be measured by mathematics. And I was okay with that, but it was put to me in a little bit deeper way, where as all these energies that are apparent in the entire cosmos that come down, and we absorb these energies, and our name is like the lens that the energies come through to us. And with an unbalanced name, it's like having a lens that's out of focus. And when you balance your name, it's like focusing that lens so that you're getting the undistorted energy.
What changes did you notice in your life? Did you change in your health or your thinking or your attitudes?
I did totally. But I must say, at first, I was expecting bells were going to go off and all kinds of things were going to change. It didn't quite happen that way, but I had to put a little bit of time in. And then I started noticing subtly. But one of the things that took place is I became more aware. I was more sensitized of everything going on around me, and that, and as a result of that, over a period of time, when I look back on where I was, say, just before I changed my name and to where I was now, I noticed that things were clearer. I could walk into a room and I was more tuned in and focused. It's kind of a difficult thing to really explain, but I think I was just more consciously aware of everything that's going on. Health wise, I can say one of my characteristics happens to be that I have heart and lung difficulties potentially. And I did. That was another thing that with the Kabbalion philosophy, when this started reading off about some of these things, it was exactly me. But that is all really cleared up, like unbelievable. I used to lay in bed, and when you're in that part where you're just laying there, you're almost in the alpha state and you're just breathing has very slowed down, and that it almost used to sound like a little plastic bag collapsing and then opening and collapsing and opening, and that's all gone. And there's nothing that I did to cause that. Like I don't take medication at all. I had really bad back from being a mechanic all my life, and my back has never been so good. And I can only attribute it to that. There's nothing else I've done that could have possibly caused it.
Interesting. If you were to give advice to someone considering a balanced name, what would you say?
I could share what it did for me. And, I would tell them I wouldn't hesitate to do it. When I did a name change, the one big thing, and it was my own limitation, which I have discovered it's me that creates limitations in this world. It's not everything around in the world. But the big limitation was friends and relatives. When I changed my name, how's that going to go over? Like, is that going to be accepted or whatever? I thought about it, like I didn't have much family left anyway. And I thought about my friends. And so as I went through that, I didn't want to come across too airy fairy, which is a word I learned. Like people think you're airy fairy if you just come out and say things that are more than just the concrete finite world that we know. But I just told them I began studying a philosophy, and in that philosophy I've learned that a balanced name is the better thing for me, and I kept it simple. And 99.9% of the people just said, oh, okay. At first they had a difficult time remembering my new name, and I came up with the idea and told them, hey, you know what, on your phone contacts, change my name to my new name. And I mean, who would have thought? People never thought to do. I mean, I never thought to do that either. And then it all began to flow better. But there was one guy, I got to say, and he said to me, well, I know you by your old name, and I'm going to call you that, and that's that. And I knew that he didn't like his first name. his birth given name, and he used his middle name all for the latter part of his life since I knew him. And I just said to him, "Oh, okay, then that's fine." And I called him by his first name, and he went, "Whoa, what are you doing?" And he got, and from that time on, he's always called me by my balanced name.
He got
So
the
it was
point.
not difficult at all. And either was the going to get signed up, the legal part of it was no problem at all. I mean, you go down and you get a form, and they tell you right on the form, you fill out the form and you send it in. And I can remember standing at the counter, and I said to the guy, I said, "I guess you don't get this very often, eh? Somebody coming in wanting to change their name." And he looked at me and raised an eyebrow and said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "We get a handful of these every day." I think back on it now, if only people knew when they went to go and do a name change
Right.
to get a balanced one.
So you've studied the Kavlerian philosophy for a number of years. What have you found valuable in your online studies, and what would you like to share right now?
Well, it's a world of information. Had I not experienced it myself, obviously I would never know. But the writings of Mr. Parker and all our information, you only have to pick up one of the writings, one of the books or whatever, not even talking about the actual lessons. And after reading it, it is so uplifting. If you hadn't experienced it, then you wouldn't know. And so it's a difficult thing to explain. Another thing is the cycles. The cycles, which I read daily, it tells me when to and what to and where to and everything. And it just gives a gentle outlining. And it always seems to ring true. I have gone on a good day, waited to do something on a good day, and gone down, and you've probably experienced it, hit every stoplight green. There's a spot right in the parking lot, walk right up to the shelf that I wanted to buy something at. There it is, pick it up, go back. No, line up at the cash register, and out I go. I mean, I remember doing that once, and I just thought, wow, what just happened? It's not always that way. It's not like a bed of roses, but when challenges do come, I have the tools now to, without too much trouble, being able to handle things. One thing I read in my studies there, they said, like, they were describing on the cycles, and they said, like, a farmer would never he may get the urge in the middle of the winter to go out and plant because he feels like doing it, but he never would do it. And if he did do it, what would happen with that, you know?
Right. It's interesting. We create our life through our thinking. And so as you balance your thinking and you work in harmony with the cycles, your life becomes more harmonious, more balanced. Do you have any thoughts relative to the quality of thinking that you draw from now compared to when you didn't know anything about the principle?
Oh, totally. It's so easy to look at the negative side of things because there's so much negativity going on around. But and I've come to a place in my mind where you can go down the road and focus on the ditch and saying, "I got to stay out of the ditch. I got to stay out of the ditch. I got to stay out of the ditch." Before you know it, you're in the ditch. Whereas I can go down the road and I can concentrate on the center line, and things just go smoother. I follow my cycles. I love the terminology we use. Let the principle unfold. If I'm willing to take my limitations and keep them out of the way and let the principle unfold, everything works out just the way it's supposed to.
Would you have any final comments you'd like to add?
After you set your foot upon the path, which is what Mr. Parker said, you never will remove it. I only wish that the rest of the world that are out there, the 7.8 billion or whatever they would, what a wonderful world this would be if people had more balanced names and came to know the Kabbalion philosophy.
That's a good thought to end on. Thank you, Floyd, for participating. I'm sure your insights will help others consider a balanced name and make their life a more constructive effort.
And thank you so much for allowing me to share.
If you'd like to test this principle on yourself, just get a free name report at our website, kabalarians.com. That's KABALARIANS.com. It's a 20 to 25 page report based on your first names, your surname, and any nicknames that you had, plus the combination of the names together. And it's readily available, it's free, and it's there for you to test. So until the next episode, happy thoughts. Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways we can help you. Number 1, the Balanced Name Recommendation Service. Join the thousands of others who have harmonized their names with their inner potential to improve their health, happiness, and success. Number 2, learn the principles of mental freedom. Participate in our online training program to gain the essential tools to create all the progressive changes you seek in your life. These proven truths will open up new perspectives and accelerate your attainment of health, happiness, and success. Number 3, let Kalex Solutions help you choose a balanced name for your business, because many business names are an impediment to one's overall business success.